Welcome to Jurassic Park Japan, my new modded building series for Jurassic World Evolution 2. In last week's video, I showed you how I made this pagoda using these pieces. Here is the plan for today's video. We're making the park entrance and a habitat for Gojira, the park's mascot. Plus, I have an exciting announcement at the end. First, let me catch you up on what I did. When I think of Japan, I think of beautiful traditional architecture, but I also think of modern architecture and technology and high-speed trains. So I decided to make the entrance building the Jurassic World Innovation Center with a monorail station clipped into it. We're gonna have to use many rocks and trees to hide this split in the mountain. And then tucked at the back here is another station, but just to make the train work. The idea is that the train actually goes way off into the distance, back to Hokkaido, as my version of Jurassic Park Japan is built on an island in the north of Japan, not on Guam, as was stated in the novel. The train takes visitors to the arrival building, which is built right on the edge of a cliff, connected to a huge hotel built into the side of the cliff. And I've already made the first rooftop terrace of the hotel. We don't have a Japanese building set in this game, so I have to use what we got, meaning this park is going to be a blend of the modern with the traditional. These red and white signs are really going to be important for this build. Not only were they the key component of the pagoda, I also used them to make this giant Japanese flag on the side of the mountain. It's not perfect, but that's because this was way more difficult and finicky to make than it seems, but I think it's a fun detail. In preparation of the build, I took a screenshot of the area and then sketched out my plan on top of that, which is a tip for you if you are struggling to come up with the habitat. The Tarbosaurus habitat will have two distinct sides: an abandoned, destroyed town and a natural side. So guests can experience Gojira in two ways: as the giant kaiju it's named after, and as just an animal. By the way, this black skin is just a glitch in the skin system, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, that's gonna be Godzilla for Jurassic Park Japan. And if you want to make sure that you're not gonna miss out on an episode of Jurassic Park Japan, as well as news for Jurassic World Evolution 3, hopefully coming very soon, subscribe to the channel. The first step is laying down the path, and my goal for this park is for all the path to flow very naturally. I'm using the brown path right now, but I'm eyeing a path mod that changes that texture to more of a cobblestone effect that I think goes well with the traditional inspiration of the park. To the big plazas, I'm adding lines which are inspired by Japanese dry gardens, or Zen gardens you might know them as, where they rake patterns into sand. I thought that was a subtle way to incorporate some more identity into the park. Something that is always important is differences in elevation, and Jurassic Park Japan will use that in big ways like the cliffs, and small ways like paths slightly higher up than other paths. I think this makes the guest areas look much more interesting. I have my sketch open on my other monitor to guide the layout, but I always remind myself and you to stay flexible and make adjustments on the fly if something isn't working, if the path isn't connecting the way you had imagined, the way you had sketched, just make adjustments. I'm adding lots of buildings to Jurassic Park Japan, spared no expense, and with mods you can just place buildings so much better because you can freely place them on the path. And what I really like doing is sink the buildings down just a little bit to get rid of that big light concrete footprint and really just show the color of the path underneath. It just makes the buildings sit so much more nicely on the guest areas. As always, we hide the backs of the buildings, and mods just make that a lot easier with a nicer end result. Same goes for the ever-important stupidity barrier. Jurassic World Evolution 3 really needs a low fence like this. With the path done, I'm going back to the entrance to build another custom element using decorations. What I'm building here is a Japanese garden wall in a very similar style to the pagoda I built last week, so that will help tie the different elements of the park together. This wall was pretty easy to build, obviously helped by my experience after spending over 5 hours building the pagoda, and it's definitely worth the effort to bring more of that traditional Japanese look into the park. And I wasn't initially going to, but I added a red bottom to the wall because it looked a little too boring and clean white without it, and again, it ties nicely with the pagoda. Next up is a lot of rock work, and it is work. This is very time consuming to grab, angle, and sink every single rock into the ideal position. Modded park building is definitely yielding much nicer results, and I really hope Jurassic World Evolution 3 will largely resemble modded Jurassic World Evolution 2, but it is a big investment of time and something that I'm still underestimating and getting used to. So there's definitely some teething issues, I think, in my modded builds, but I hope I'll get better not just in building, but in making videos about it as well. Obviously, I consider doing real-time builds for the park building series, as I've done for Mini Nublar, Mini Sorna, all of those series, but yeah, modding is just so much more time consuming, it's so much slower that I felt speed builds were the way to go. But for future episodes, I might try a blend of both. Let me know in a comment down below what you think. I've placed a low viewing gallery here, thinking the terrain elevation would be enough to give a nice look into the Tarbosaurus habitat, but I actually switched this out with a viewing tower later, because that gives a much better overview of the destroyed town street that I've built for Gojira's habitat. When guests walk through the Jurassic Park gate, they're gonna have a perfectly framed view of the pagoda as they step into the park. I've added a movie theater to the entrance plaza, which I thought could maybe show informative videos on the park itself for guests to view before they enter and explore the park for themselves. I've started on adding decorations to the entrance plaza, but I have to be honest with you, I am not done yet, and the same goes for all of the guest areas that you've seen so far. It's good enough for now, but I definitely want to add more detail. Like I said, I'm still really underestimating how much longer it takes to build with mods because there is so much more to do. Besides, it might be kind of nice to keep some surprises from you to be revealed when we eventually do the tour many weeks from now. It is time to work on the first half of Gojira's habitat, and it's a small section of town after being completely wrecked. The Tarbosaurus isn't really a stand-in for Godzilla, of course. It's just a Tarbosaurus named after one of Japan's most famous exports. And I felt like that was something a commercial park would do. A little bit self-aware, tongue-in-cheek. This half of the Tarbosaurus habitat is kind of like a Universal movie park kind of set, but I didn't want to build the full exhibit that way, and I didn't want the destroyed buildings to become an eyesore in the background of a beautiful park. Which is why the front half of the habitat will be completely natural, and I will be using a lot of trees to hide this section of town. Guests will only see it if they come down one particular path to look into the town. I had a good time building this though, using new modded pieces and making good use of the in-game cosmetic destruction tool. An unfortunate side effect is that all these decoration pieces have a hitbox, so I can drop Gojira in here, but he'll just stand in place. So for him too, it's a good thing this is only half of his habitat. Of course, I will show you the end result at the end of the video, and don't forget about my announcement coming soon as well. But before we get to that, I have more of this part of the build to show you, so while past Evo is building, present Evo is gonna talk about the vision for this park, the concept behind this park. So what we're gonna be doing for Jurassic Park Japan is we're gonna be using Asian species in the game. Unfortunately, Jurassic World Evolution 2 doesn't have Japanese species specifically, and there also aren't any high quality mods for Japanese species, so that's why we're expanding to the entire Asian roster. And the idea behind that is that Jurassic Park Japan is part of a global franchise with a park on every continent, so Jurassic Park Japan, Jurassic Park Europe, Jurassic Park Africa, and each park represents dinosaurs from that continent. So that's how, you know, we're allowing ourselves to incorporate the entire Asian roster. With the destroyed town half done, it's time to work on the natural half of the Tarbosaurus habitat, which is where he will be spending all of his time since, again, the hitboxes prevent him from using the entire other half of the habitat. I didn't really think that through, so in the end, his half habitat is smaller than intended, but we're pretending that he can access the town. And while the town was pretty time consuming to do, especially placing the sidewalks stone by stone, the natural habitat was pretty quick to do. And I really just focused on making sure that we are hiding the view of the town, you know, from all of the paths. So, you know, if our guests are looking into the natural half of the Tarbosaurus habitat, they are not going to be seeing the destruction that is behind it. That is really a little surprise for guests if they do go down that one path that allows that viewing experience. And this is Jurassic Park Japan so far. If you like the start of this park, give the video a thumbs up and of course subscribe for more. And feel free to comment requests and suggestions for what you want to see in this park. While building, I realized it would really be a struggle to add a Japanese identity to the park because we don't have suitable pieces. And I can't be building custom pagodas all over the place because that would crash the park. So I'm excited to announce that I have commissioned a custom mod with a selection of Japanese decoration pieces. And this mod will go up on Nexus for everyone to use. I don't know yet when it will be done, but definitely stay tuned for the full reveal of that custom mod. I think it's going to make Jurassic Park Japan a lot better, and I think other modded park builders will really enjoy these pieces as well. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.